Hey guys, I hope you're doing well and keeping busy during these weird times of quarantine. As an extrovert, I for sure am struggling with this work from home life. I mean, watch Netflix or go to work. Started buying random things on Amazon the other day and thought about getting a cat. I've got some pretty big decisions coming up. Anyways, make sure you're saying something nice to your family members because I'm sure they're seeing a lot more of you than they're used to, and acts of kindness during times like this can go a long way, believe me. But since we have all of this spare time, I wanted to take time and share with you what it means to spend quality time with Jesus and how us as Christians can benefit from that. And luckily for us, there are plenty of examples in the Bible. We're going to start in the book of John, chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. Now Jesus learned the Pharisees had heard that he was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John. So he left Judea and went back once more to Galilee. Now he had to go through Samaria, so he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon when a Samaritan woman came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" Picking up in verse 9, the Samaritan woman replied, said, "You are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews did not associate with Samaritans. So let's break this down. On his way back to Galilee, Jesus and his disciples make a pit stop outside of a town in Samaria. Now this is a pretty big deal because many Jews wouldn't be caught dead in Samaria. In fact, people would add several days to their journey just so they wouldn't have to go through Samaria. Think about driving to St. Louis, cutting through Illinois just to avoid Rolla. It would add many hours to that road trip and make it very inconvenient, right? So why did the Jews hate Samaritans? It's a long story, but Samaritans used to be a part of the same kingdom as the Jews. But there was a falling out and the kingdom split. After that, Jews thought of Samaritans as impure, or like the ugly duckling that didn't fit in. For you Office fans, think of a Samaritan as being Toby. Or Harry Potter fans, maybe a muggle-born wizard. Catch my drift. According to the Jews, the Samaritans didn't worship God the right way, but they did worship the same God, which was something most other people at that time did not do. So the woman at the well is shocked that Jesus would even talk to her. Jews are not even supposed to be in Samaria, but here Jesus is striking up a conversation. Let's pick the story back up in chapter 4, verses 9, and then 13 through 18. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" And then in 13 through 18, Jesus answers, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I don't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." He told her, "Go call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true." So this woman seems to be in a pretty bad spot, right? Her first challenge is race. This woman was a racial outsider according to Jews. Samaritans were considered unclean, traitors, and fools. They were unclean because they supposedly worshiped God the wrong way. They were traitors because they split from the United Jewish Kingdom centuries beforehand. And they were fools because they wouldn't change their ways. The second way this woman was marginalized was because she was just a woman. During this time, a woman was treated mostly as property and could not even be called upon to give testimony in court. The third way this woman was abused by society was through prejudice. This woman is at the well alone in the middle of the day because not even her Samaritan neighbors trust her. Typically, water was gathered at the beginning of the day because it was less hot outside and you needed the water to cook and bathe as soon as you woke up in the morning. But this woman came to the well alone when she thought no one else would be there to avoid people in town who treat her badly. But Jesus notices her. He starts talking to her and already knows the discrimination against her. He already knew this. Jews don't like her because she's a Samaritan. Men don't trust her because she's a woman, and her neighbors don't want to be around her because they think she's a sinner for living with men while unmarried. Here's the surprising thing about this whole passage, and so many of us will overlook it. The word sin is not even found in this entire chapter. The passage is not about Jesus forgiving this woman's sins. He never even talks about sin. There are plenty of passages in the Bible where Jesus is quoted sinful people, right? When we read this passage, we are tempted to listen to this woman's story and only hear the phrase, "The man you now have is not your husband." Instead, what you should hear is the fact that this woman has had 5 husbands, right? 5 husbands. Could you imagine the heartbreak? How did she lose them? Did they die? Or is it through divorce? And remember, divorce, a woman could not even file for divorce in those days. A husband would have to send his wife away, nothing for no reason, by simply writing a note saying he no longer wanted her around, saying, "See you later." There are a number of ways, in fact, that one might imagine this woman's story as tragic rather than scandalous. She has experienced racial discrimination, gender discrimination, perhaps both death and divorce, and maybe even abuse. Now, no one will even walk with her to get a drink. Besides Jesus, right? Jesus approached this woman at the well in order to heal her heart. In this story, he is the one who has been traveling. Jesus is the one who asked for the water. Jesus is the one who starts the conversation. This woman had no idea what was in store for her that day. She was not seeking God. And as I mentioned earlier in today's text, nowhere do we find the word sin. And at this point, nor does Jesus try to have this woman repent or call her to humility. This woman isn't perfect and has committed sins like all of us. But in this moment, he addresses the issues of brokenness rather than sinfulness. Jesus sought her out not to convict or condemn, but to heal her heart. Now, how does Jesus heal her heart? By seeing her when others ignored her, by listening to her when men thought she wasn't to be trusted, by treating her as a beloved child of God when racial discrimination had taught her that she was less than human. Jesus asks her for water and puts her in the driver's seat of the conversation. His approach is humble, not proud. Jesus sees her in the brokenness and does not rush to fix it, but allows their relationship to grow. And when he addresses the pain in her life, he does not condemn, but listens to her deep theological questions. He reveals to her the mysteriousness of God, special understanding that has not yet been revealed to anyone else, not even his disciples. Perhaps the extraordinary aspect of this text is not simply that Jesus heals her, but her heart is healed as she becomes the witness for Jesus. John 4:25-29 says, "The woman said, 'I know that the Messiah is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us.' Then Jesus declared, 'I, the one who's speaking to you, am he.' Then leaving her water jar, the woman went back to town and said to the people, 'Come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?'" We learn from her own story that not only do we receive healing from spending time with Jesus, but we can become instruments of healing and change others as we point them to Jesus. My prayer for you in this moment is to spend time with Jesus so he can heal your heart. Think about the brokenness you may have experienced. Maybe they were created by ugly parts of our society when you were ignored, poorly judged, or laughed at. Maybe your heart was broken in a relationship, or you've experienced the death of a loved one. The woman at the well was familiar with all of these things. However, Jesus teaches us that spending time with Jesus can heal a broken heart. So I challenge you this week to take time during this quarantine and spend some time with Jesus. You no longer have the excuse of, "I was too busy," or "I didn't have enough time." You have nothing but time. No distractions from sports, bands, friends. So put the phone down, Xbox controller, whatever it may be. Pick up a Bible and pray. Be present with Jesus. Thank you so much for spending some time with me and spending time with Jesus. Get it? We miss you guys. Make sure you're following our social media and reading our emails for all of our latest updates. And so sorry we couldn't be in person today, but we'll see you later.